Hey guys, I want to talk to you about something that I kind of keep running into, and understand that there is a lot of competition going on in the shooting community right now, the training community, civilian in particular. There is a lot of combat veterans with experience downrange who are coming back and starting up schools and teaching from their particular perspectives, and I have no issue with this whatsoever. However, in the midst of all this, I also see a lot of kind of bashing going on about, you know, this guy doesn't have as impressive a resume as me, and I've done this and I've done that, and you shouldn't listen to anybody if they haven't done this, and so on and so forth. And I'm just here to set the record straight and just be straight up real. Most of the guys that are making those statements were actually trained by guys who had no combat experience. Most of the guys who are making those kinds of statements, yes, they have experience downrange, yes, they've done these things, but they were actually trained within the soft community by guys who had no combat experience. And they were considered sufficient to go downrange and execute these operations. Now, in doing so, they came back, they learned certain lessons, maybe they modified some of the techniques and the training and the methodology. Have no issue with that whatsoever. You know, tactics, techniques, and procedures, you know, TTPs, those methods should be revised from time to time to fit the particular environment that you're working in, including some of the things that we've run into in Iraq and Afghanistan. However, to make the statement that this individual has nothing to offer, or that this group of people has nothing to offer because they don't have the resume that I do, in my opinion, is tantamount to admitting that you yourself are not confident enough in the content of the material that you are producing to let it stand on its own. You guys, I posted things on Instagram, I've made statements. I specifically do not get into my resume or to my background for a reason. And that is because I want the content of the material that I'm presenting to stand on its own. I've been downrange. I've done things, well, I'm not even going to get into the area, but I've been to the Middle East, I've been to South America, I've done things all over. But for me to sit there and say, you should do it this way because I've done all of these things, is an admission that what I'm telling you, I lack the confidence to be able to articulate this in a manner that the information stands on its own. It would be like debating an evolutionist, and this guy has zero arguments whatsoever for the evidence, for the case, for how he got to his conclusion, and the only thing he can say is, well, I've got a degree from this school, and I've got a degree from this school, and okay, great. But what, so what? The evidence in the material should stand on its own if you have any confidence in the material that you're presenting. So, that being said, I've talked about this before, how guys like Rob Latham, Jerry Michalek, and a plethora of other guys with no law enforcement experience, no combat experience of any form or fashion, no military experience, have actually been hired by our military at the highest levels to teach them various different things. Now, it is up to those operators to then take that information and apply it to their particular environment, and that may involve tweaking and honing and things like that. But the basis of what it is that they learn, the very skills that they learn, shooting fast, recoil management, all of this, they got from the civilian community. So in my opinion, to sit there and throw a resume out there to the civilian community when it was the civilian community that actually gave you the skills that allowed you to go downrange is an element of snobbery and an element of lack of confidence in the material that you have. And I've talked about this before in the past with guys like Frank Proctor. I look up to guys like Frank Proctor because of his honesty. Guys like Travis Haley. I mean, amazing guys. You know, I may not agree with them on everything, but I absolutely 100% agree with their honesty and their integrity and their ability to, or their willingness rather, to buck against the machine that has become this whole industry, and to stand toe-to-toe with other people who have been there and done that and say, yeah, that's what we were taught, but that doesn't even make any sense. I mean, what you're showing there is stupid. So I've gone, and even though I'm bucking against that military-industrial complex, I'm bucking against Big Army and Marine Corps, you know, even though I'm bucking against the very methods that I was taught that sent me down range, I have since learned that those things are stupid, and in turn, I have a consistent methodology that I'm teaching. And they bring in from other areas, like I'm aware that Travis Haley brings in like doctors and you know, guys who study biomechanics and stuff like that, and he applies that. He's not just regurgitating information that he was taught. He is actually taking outside information from guys who were not even trained in that particular area, but they are subject matter experts in their field, and he's taking that information and he's applying it to his system, and he's taking the information and experience that he has, and he's honing it all together, and he's putting together his system. And I really have a lot of respect for guys like that. Guys like Travis Haley, I mean, he's the Yoda of gunfighting. All right, Frank Proctor, amazing guy, soft background, and the guy goes out there and he's very honest, and he tells people, look, there was a period of time when I was training and I was teaching, even at the highest levels. Now, this is a guy who's been downrange. He's done these things. You know, Army SF background. And he comes back and he's saying, you know what? There was a period of time when I came back and I was an instructor for the soft community, and you know, all I was doing, I found myself, all I was doing was just regurgitating information. I was just teaching because that's what I was taught. So the susceptibility for people at all levels to become imitators, as this one individual was accusing people of doing, is there. The ability for anybody at any level to just simply regurgitate information and become an imitator is there. I don't care what your background is, what your resume is. But Frank Proctor also talks about that aha moment, that epiphany that he had when all of a sudden he realized that one day the information that he was passing on was not truly his information. He was just regurgitating information, and as a result of that, he began to dive in deep into the thought process, the biomechanics, you know, how does this work? You know what? This would actually work better, even though I was taught to do it this way. It would actually work better if I did it this way. So, and these were things that he did after he was a civilian. After he was out, he went in and he fine-tuned it. And he talks about the fact that a skill or an ability or a technique is not really yours until you've added to it, until you've made it your own personally. And this comes right down to my very philosophy in training, and that is to create thinkers, not imitators, not mimickers. Okay? Thinkers is something that you either are or you're not. You have leaders and you have followers. You have those guys who are willing to not just replicate what it is that you do, but they want to know why. They want to know why you bring that hand into your chest when you draw that pistol. They want to know why you put your nose to the charging handle, or maybe you don't. That's kind of an old school issue, but why you don't put your nose to the charging handle. I mean, why? Is it just because that's what you said? I mean, is there a reason? Can you show me that reason? Can you validate it? Can you actually put me in a drill and put me in both situations, nose on the charging handle and nose off, and actually demonstrate to me that what you're saying is valid and makes sense? See, that's the content of the information. And that has nothing to do with resume. That has nothing to do with where you've been and what you've done. That has to do with the content of the information and you having enough confidence to present that information and to be willing to validate it. So I don't agree with the snobbery that's going on. I'm open to whatever sort of information comes from whatever source. And as soon as you come to me and you're like, oh, well, I've done this, this, and this, and this, if that's the entire basis of your argument, I really, you know, you've already revealed yourself. I don't care what your background is. You're an imitator. You're imitating at a higher level, but you're still an imitator. So, you know, this is probably going to be a nut punch for several people. I really don't care. You know, I don't care who you are. If you have the ability to think through the process, to think through the information that is being presented to you, your particular area of operation, the environment that you're particularly going to be facing, whether you're a civilian, whether you're a contractor, whether you're a guy with a military or law enforcement background, wherever it is you plan on operating, if you can think through your area and where you're working and then apply things like Iraqi-style vehicle ambushes, shooting through the windows and all this stuff, I mean, really, when the hell are you ever going to be in this situation rolling into Publix? I'm absolutely dumbfounded. When the idea that I'm going to go through and I'm going to practice reload drills and I'm going to execute a speed reload. Okay, great. That comes down to weapons manipulation. But when would I ever execute a speed reload? Well, obviously it would be at a point in time when I am actively shooting on an individual to either eliminate that threat or to suppress that threat. And all of a sudden, oh shit, I just went dry. So now what? Well, now I'm in trouble. So I got to get rounds back in the gun. Right. So when would I ever be in that scenario where I would either, one, not be behind cover, or two, not at least be moving? I would never be static. Never. At no point would I ever run dry and stand there and try and just reload as quickly as I can. I had better be on the move in each and every case. And if I'm using cover and I ran dry out one side of cover, you're damn straight that when I reload that gun, I'm coming out in another place. The content of the material should stand for itself. It doesn't matter what your background is. This is all about teaching people to be better thinkers, teaching them to be better warriors through training their minds, not just getting them to imitate information. And I don't care what your resume says, there are imitators at all levels. So I want you guys to think about that. I want you guys to put all your instructors, myself included, put all of them to the test. Are they expanding on the methodology? Are they giving you the whys? Because the whys are everything. The whys are, I mean, they're everything. Are they giving you that information, or are they just giving you a pat answer and saying, because I said so? Are they willing to actually demonstrate and validate that information in a force-on-force scenario? Or whenever those situations are presented, do they simply fall back to their resume and say, well, I've done this and I've done that? I don't really care. I don't care what your background is. So, again, probably a nut punch. I'll probably suffer for this one, but you know what? Eat a dick. You know, it is what it is. You guys train hard.